A service dog served for 10 years, saving the lives of dozens of people during the war. Today, it faces another front line, the courtroom. Its owner, a soldier who lost a leg, only wishes for one thing in his final days, to retire alongside his companion. But right at the trial that will decide both their fates, the dog suddenly growls, then does something no one could have predicted. Is there a bomb? Someone shouts in panic. The entire courtroom turns into a silent battlefield. And then, everyone understands a shocking truth. Underneath the worn military uniform, each scar tells the story of a man who has been through war, not just on the battlefield, but within his own mind. Logan Miles, 40 years old, is a former Special Forces member who served in the most dangerous conflict zones in the world. 10 years ago, during a mission, he was severely injured by an explosion that left his left leg no longer functional. Since then, his crutch has always accompanied him, a new part of his body, a symbol of survival. But for Logan, what helps him stand up is not the crutch, but Axel. Axel is a German shepherd, specially trained in the military, but to Logan, Axel is not just a teammate, but the only friend he has left after the war. For 10 years, they have not been apart for a moment. They've flown together through war zones, shared every tense moment, stayed awake through the nights when mines could explode at any time. And during one pursuit, Axel was also injured. A shard of shrapnel grazed its hip, leaving its hind leg permanently limping. From that day, both Logan and Axel walked with 3 sturdy legs and a crutch. Logan once said, "I lost a leg." Axel lost a leg. But because of that, we keep each other standing. After retiring from the military, Logan requested that Axel be allowed to retire early. Not because Axel was no longer capable of fighting, but because Logan knew they had sacrificed enough. They needed a peaceful life. They needed each other, not on the battlefield, but in the final days of their lives. But the military rejected the request. According to regulations, Axel was still government property and would be reassigned to a new mission. Even though Axel was injured, it was still considered useful if retrained. They wanted to separate the dog from the only family it had ever known. Logan did not get angry. He simply stood in silence, placing his hand on Axel's head, and on a morning as ordinary as any other, he walked into the courtroom with his crutch in hand, submitting an appeal. He was only asking to keep the friend who had saved his life, not just once, but throughout his entire life. The courtroom this morning was quiet, but the silence wasn't because of peace. It was because something heavy weighed on the hearts of everyone present. In the center, Logan Miles slowly walked in with his wooden crutch in hand, alongside Axel, the old dog with tired yet sharp eyes. Each step they took was a reminder that war leaves wounds that time cannot heal. Only friendship has the power to soothe them. No one spoke a word. Even the judge, a middle-aged man with serious silver eyebrows, took a few seconds before speaking. "Mr. Logan, today is the final session before the verdict. Do you have anything you would like to say?" Logan nodded, his eyes red, not from physical pain, but from the fear of having to part with his best friend. He stood up, slightly unsteady on his crutch, but then, in a hoarse voice, each word seemed to pierce the hearts of those who listened. "Your Honor, I did not come here to ask for pity. I came to ask for justice, not for me, but for Axel." He bent down, placing his hand on the dog's head, and its eyes met his without blinking. "For 10 years, this dog has saved me from mines, from stray bullets, from the nightmares I face every night when I return from the battlefield. When I lost my friends, when I lost part of my body, Axel was the only thing I had left. His voice began to choke. Today, they want to take him away, to send him to a new unit, but no one is asking if Axel wants that. A wave of emotion spread throughout the courtroom. Some people lowered their heads. Others struggled to hold back tears. Logan continued, though his hands were shaking. We have both given our all. We have both been wounded. We both only want to live the rest of our lives together. Please, do not make me leave the only friend I have. A stillness fell over the room. Even the government lawyer, the one representing the opposition, did not speak. He only flipped through his papers, but it was clear he was losing composure. Then, something strange happened. Just as the judge was preparing to declare the end of the session and deliver the verdict, Axel suddenly sprang to his feet. His entire body was taut like a bowstring. His ears stood straight. His nose stretched forward, and he let out a low growl, not out of anger, but because he had detected something. Logan immediately turned to him. A chill ran down his spine. This feeling, he had felt it before on the battlefield. He muttered, "Oh my God." No, Axel never growls without reason. All eyes turned to the narrow door. What had seemed like an emotional hearing about the right to keep a beloved dog suddenly turned into a silent battlefield. Axel, who had been lying quietly by Logan's side, suddenly stood up. No barking, no growling, just a heavy breath and a razor-sharp glance toward the narrow door. It was the look Logan could never forget. During his years in the Afghanistan War, every time Axel shot him a glance like that, it was followed by hell itself. Logan braced himself, pushing down hard on his crutch, his eyes following his loyal dog's direction. He whispered, "What do you smell, Axel?" No answer was needed. A sound, faint, but enough to make his heart skip. The creaking of a metal door at the back of the courtroom slightly opening. Everyone turned to look. That door was supposed to be the exit for the security personnel. But today, it opened unexpectedly, out of schedule. A figure slowly stepped in. No awkwardness, no fear. Each step was like a conductor entering a concert hall, poised and deliberate. The man wore a long black coat, leather gloves, and a hat that obscured most of his face. In his hand, he carried an old, large suitcase, about the size of a music box, but heavy enough for his hand to tremble slightly as he walked. Axel growled as if facing death itself. Many in the courtroom stood up instinctively. An elderly woman in the middle row nearly fell from sheer panic. The judge, confused and furious, slammed the gavel onto the desk. "Who allowed you into the courtroom?" "Security." But no one had time to act. Logan tightened his grip on his crutch. His whole body stiffened. His throat went dry. "Jonas?" "Cade." He whispered almost inaudibly, but that name shattered the atmosphere in the room. The air in the courtroom seemed to be drained of oxygen. The entire room fell silent, their gazes no longer focused on Logan, the amputee veteran standing in the courtroom beside his loyal dog, but instead on the stranger entering through the door, Jonas Cade. The cold, fluorescent lights cast down on his mocking smile. The dark, gray suit, his tall, lean figure, but most of all, his eyes, unmistakable. They were the eyes of a predator. Axel, the dog who had been by Logan's side for 10 years, growled deep in his throat. His eyes never left Jonas, not for a second. Logan frowned. Not because of Jonas's appearance, but because he knew all too well. Axel only growled like that when faced with something dangerous. 1 year ago, in the conflict zones of eastern Iraq, Logan Miles was the direct commander who uncovered an illegal arms trafficking network, a mission that seemed simple, but revealed a shocking secret. The American military had been infiltrated. Jonas Cade had been a civilian contractor, someone with clearance to access military bases without thorough checks. Logan had trusted him, but Jonas had stolen data, aided insurgents, and almost caused the massacre of a U.S. military unit. When Logan and Axel discovered the plot, they had thwarted the transaction with a bold raid, but at a great cost. Logan lost part of his left leg, and Axel was wounded. Both had nearly died. Jonas disappeared after the incident, leaving behind a trail of blood and a warning. "I'll be back. And next time, you won't be so lucky." Today, he returned for revenge. The trial today was originally to address Logan's request to retire Axel, his four-legged companion. He just wanted the dog to rest after 10 years of service. But Jonas came for revenge. "I didn't come here to litigate. I came to the end of everything," Jonas said, gently lifting his coat. In the blink of an eye, everyone realized. He was carrying a gun. A shout rang out from someone in the room. "He's armed!" A moment stretched like a century before chaos erupted. Jonas drew the gun, aimed directly at Logan. Axel lunged. The bullet tore through the air, grazing Logan's cheek, punching through the wooden cabinet behind him. Logan collapsed, the crutch falling to the floor with a loud thud, echoing through the courtroom. Not a single police officer had time to react. Axel sank his teeth into Jonas's arm, the blood splattering. Jonas screamed in pain, struggling between the dog's muscular forelegs and the hatred that had simmered for years. Axel was old, but in his eyes still burned the spirit of the warrior, the same dog who ran into fire to protect his comrades. With claws and the fury built up over the years, Axel bit down hard on Jonas's arm, making the gun fall from his grip. Security rushed in. Jonas fought back, pulling a small explosive device from his back pocket. Not a regular bomb, but an EMP device designed to disable the security system and cameras. A click sound echoed. All the screens in the courtroom went black. Logan, crawling on one leg, rushed to grab the weapon, slamming it into Jonas's hand, making him drop the device. In that instant, the emergency lights flickered on. Axel backed away, his breathing heavy, blood staining his fur like the colors of an old battlefield. When everyone thought Jonas would be apprehended, 2 other dark figures appeared behind the door. 2 tall men, armed with combat knives, stepped inside, their eyes cold and unfeeling. Jonas smirked. "I told you, you'll pay for this." In a harsh voice he spat. "You and that dog ruined my network a year ago. I spent 3 years in Syria, 2 years in Chechnya, rebuilding everything. I want to erase the last 2 names on my blacklist. Today, I'm here to finish it, with my own hands." Suddenly, special forces stormed in, and Jonas and the 2 strangers were subdued. A medical team rushed to tend to Logan, with scratches on his shoulder, and Axel, who had been wounded in the chest but was fortunate to survive. Before being escorted out, Jonas turned his head, gave a half-smile, and said to Logan, "We're not the last, Logan Miles. Those with power paid to make sure you and that dog are silenced forever." Logan sat on the floor of the now empty courtroom. Axel lay beside him, his head resting on Logan's leg, breathing heavily but at ease. An officer whispered, "Now you see why they didn't want to retire him, don't you? Axel knows more than even artificial memory. He remembers faces, smells, and traces of people that the system can't track. After Jonas Cade and his 2 accomplices were escorted out of the courtroom, Logan Miles was taken to a military medical facility for treatment of his wounds, while Axel, his most loyal companion, was rushed to a secure veterinary room with guards standing watch. No one explained why such strict security was needed. But Logan felt clearly something bigger than the trial had just happened. The next morning, in a room guarded by 2 Special Forces soldiers, Logan was invited by a stranger wearing a Pentagon Internal Task Force badge to meet privately. The tall man, graying hair, with a National Security Alpha badge on his chest, placed a locked leather briefcase in front of Logan. "You know, we never share this kind of file with discharged soldiers, but because you almost died yesterday, because of a dog..." Logan remained silent. "It's not because you're weak, but because that dog knows things we've been trying to keep hidden for 10 years. The man opened the briefcase. Inside were dozens of files, faded photos, notes, and a military map littered with red ink. At the top corner, a bold line read, "Project Ghost Nose. K9 Unit, 6th Generation." Logan furrowed his brow. He had heard of military dog training programs, but Ghost Nose, never. A top-secret project. Trials in Afghanistan, Fallujah, and later Mosul, the man said, flipping through a few pages. "We selected dogs that were not only fast and strong, but also possessed a rare ability, the capacity to memorize human scents through every interaction." Logan nodded. Axel never forgets anyone he has met. Whether it's been 5 years or 7 years, if he's encountered them once, he remembers. The man continued. "Exactly. But what you don't know is Axel is the only one to surpass the G-Scent 200 threshold, a molecular-level human scent analysis capability in a multi-layered environment, like sweat, gunpowder, blood, chemicals, even disease. In other words, if a person has early-stage lung cancer, Axel detects it before a CT scan picks it up. If someone touched an explosive 5 years ago, Axel would still be alert. You think Jonas Cade and his group were just arms dealers?" The agent laughed dryly. "No, they're just the tip of the iceberg. A transnational underground organization rooted within the very government itself. And during a mission that year, Axel had marked the wrong person, according to reports." Logan frowned. "Wrong? That can't be. Axel never makes a mistake." The agent nodded. "That's what we thought, too, until the person he marked, a high-ranking officer, closely connected to the Pentagon, was discovered 3 years later to be a high-level spy." Logan was frozen in shock. Axel couldn't speak, couldn't testify, but it remembered. The faces, the strange smells of blood during the attack. The men wearing U.S. military helmets but carrying AK rifles. "We can't arrest anyone based on a dog's reaction, but those marked by Axel have all gradually disappeared in unfortunate accidents. And now there's only Logan and Axel." The agent softly closed the file. "You see, Jonas didn't come for justice. He came to eliminate witnesses. Axel is the last living dog of the Ghost Nose generation. 9 others dead. 2 disappeared without a trace. The system wants to erase what's left." Logan looked down at his hands, the hands that once held the leash as Axel charged into the line of fire. Now, it was time to hold on for survival. The agent stood up. "We can put you and Axel into the witness protection program. Disappear. live in peace, with new names and new faces. But that means you'll never appear in public again. No honor, no justice. Logan gazed through the glass window. Axel's figure lay far off, bandaged around the chest, but his eyes remained wide open, alert. That wasn't the look of a dog waiting for retirement. It was the look of a warrior with a mission unfinished. Logan stood up. He pushed the crutch aside. I ran once. During that operation, Axel came back to save me. This time, I won't run anymore. As night fell over the city, Logan sat on the balcony of a small hotel, his crutch beside him, while Axel lay at his feet, still sharp-eyed. In his hands were a map, documents, and an encrypted hard drive, the only things he managed to retrieve from Jonas Cade's headquarters after his capture. Inside were top-secret files, a list of people connected to the Ghost Nose project, and, the most terrifying of all, evidence of espionage within the military. If I release all of this, they won't just kill me, they'll hunt down anyone connected to this, Logan muttered. Axel raised his head, silently placing his chin on Logan's thigh as if to say, "We've survived worse than this." The next morning, the news reported Jonas Cade had been released unconditionally. The reason? Lack of evidence. The court declared the incident from the previous day was caused by an unknown individual causing a disturbance, insufficient grounds to conclude an assassination plot. Logan understood. That was a declaration of war. At the same time, his bank account was frozen. His old apartment was raided. Axel was placed on the urgent asset recovery list. They want to erase us. Again. Logan immediately called the only person he still trusted, Clara Kim, a former investigative journalist who had exposed a massive political scandal 5 years ago. "Clara, I have a story. It'll make the Pentagon shake, but if you help me bring it to light, you'll be hunted just like I am," Clara replied with a single sentence. "I was once threatened with death for telling the truth, and I'm still alive, aren't I?" Logan, Axel, and Clara set off in an old truck with some camera equipment and a fragile hope that the truth could save them. They were pursued by a group of mercenaries without insignia, specialized in mobile tracking. Drones are monitoring them at nearly every place they stopped. And most notably, they were ambushed at a gas station in the dead of night, barely escaping death thanks to Axel, detecting the faint smell of blood in the wind, something only a special dog like him could recognize. Along the way, Axel collapsed multiple times from his old injuries, but he never stopped being alert. To him, Logan was still his comrade. The protection order had not yet been revoked. On the final night, they approached their biggest target, the Department of Defense Data Center, where digital files related to the Ghost Nose project were stored. Logan disguised himself as a maintenance worker. Clara handled breaching the firewall remotely. Axel, though old, quietly led the way through the security zone, relying on his ability to detect the scents of officers he had encountered in the past. The black and white footage from a security camera showed a limping man carrying a laptop, followed by a proud German shepherd smoothly passing through the sensor gates. Live or die, but the truth must be told. Logan spoke through the radio. At 5 a.m. the next day, a 27-minute live stream video appeared across all major social media platforms. In it, Logan sat in front of the camera, an old American flag behind him, with Axel lying at his feet. He recounted their entire 10-year journey. He spoke of the Ghost Nose project, of the loyal dogs who were silenced for knowing too much. He spoke of Jonas Cade, the mole who had killed countless U.S. soldiers with the information he betrayed, and he ended with these words, "I don't need anyone to call me a hero. I just want the world to know that a dog can be more loyal than the government." 3 days after the live stream, an independent investigative committee was formed by the U.S. Senate. Jonas Cade was arrested again, this time for treason. The Ghost Nose Project was exposed, and the public was shocked to learn that a series of dogs like Axel had been neutralized for political reasons. And then, before the eyes of the international press, the president himself awarded Logan and Axel the Medal of Honor in a historic ceremony. In his brief speech, Logan only said one sentence, "I've lost many comrades, but only one has never abandoned me, even when I lost my leg, my title, my hope." And that one was not a person. 2 years later, a small farm in Oregon, Logan and Axel retired lay on the porch, still wagging their tails every morning when Logan called, "Get up, warrior. A new day is waiting." The story of Logan and Axel didn't end in the courtroom. It lived on in the hearts of those who loved, and were loved by, a dog. If this story touches you, if you believe that love knows no species and loyalty is the most sacred thing, please help spread this message. Leave a comment, share about your four-legged friend who once walked with you, or simply offer a thank you to the dogs who silently protect humanity through the generations. Hit like if you believe every warrior, whether human or dog, deserves to be honored. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss other touching stories about bravery, survival, and the miraculous bonds between humans and animals. Because sometimes the right story at the right time can save a lost soul.